Welcome to Manifest, hosted by international evangelist, teacher, and author Perry Stone. Enjoy unique insight into prophetic and practical truth. It's time to feast on fresh manna, so get ready to be blessed and encouraged. And now, here is your host and teacher, Perry Stone.
Now, I want you to give me your undivided attention as we start this message. It's a very strange title. I will explain it as we go along. Pax Americana and America's Roman disease, America's third and final empire stage. I'm going to be sharing with you some new information that I have researched on the parallels of the third stage of the Roman Empire and the parallels of the third stage that the United States has been entering for quite some time. I will reveal a pattern of some things that hopefully you've never heard me teach in 40 years of teaching in ministry. Ecclesiastes 1, 9, and 10 says this: the thing which has been is that which shall be, and that which has been done is that, or that which is done is that which shall be done, and there's nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 5, 15 says, that which has been is now, and that which is to be has already been, meaning history repeats itself. I'm going to tell you something. Communism has existed, socialism has existed, and America is moving towards socialism and a loss of freedom. Do we not learn anything from history? The answer is no. People do not learn from history. I'm going to show you parallels of the United States with the Roman Empire. Now, when we talk about this idea of America and what we call the Roman Republic, many historians say that the Roman Republic began with Caesar Augustus in 27 BC, and it continued all the way until the time that the Western Roman Empire fell in 476 AD, or it existed for about 500 years. Now, the Roman Empire had three Roman phases, and I want to give you these three Roman phases. First was the monarchy phase, which historians will disagree some, but I'm going to give you the basics. 750 BC to 500 BC, and this was called statism, where the Roman Empire, before it became this massive empire, existed in the form of states. We call it the states phase. Then there was the republic phase. That was 500 BC to somewhere in the neighborhood of about zero, about the time of the birth of Christ, and this was the growth prosperity phase, or forming of the common law phase. The third phase was what we call the empire phase. That would have existed from about the time of the birth of Christ all the way to about roughly, and we're estimating here, 500 AD, lawmaking, then the taxes began to increase, the welfare system was developed, inflation hit, and suddenly the western branch of the Roman Empire collapsed. Now, here are the three American phases parallel to the ancient Roman phases. The monarchy phase. America's monarchy phase was in the 1600s to the year of 1776. This is when the 13 colonies, or 13 states, were under a monarchy out of England. Then we came to the republic phase. How interesting. 1776 to the 1900s. And I pledge allegiance to the flag and to the republic for which it stands. We were a republic or one nation which was under God. And then we came to what I believe is the empire stage, and I believe America has been an empire. And that was in 1945. We became the superpower and the empire with the atomic bomb. We became the number one military in the entire world, the most feared group of people on the planet. So the 1945 to the present is our empire stage, and that involves the military, it involves taxation, it involves the welfare system. Just like the third phase of the Roman Empire phase, we are in that third phase parallel in what I call the American Empire. Now, Gibbon has written a book, an older book, and I have all the books of part 1 and part 2 of the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And Gibbon tries to state the reasons why the Roman Empire fell. As many people have summed it up as, number one, there was overregulation. Number two, there was a welfare system where people started living off the government, and there wasn't enough people making jobs and making money to pay for everybody living off of free stuff. Then there was what was called circuses, and then there was a high raising of taxes. There was super high inflation, and there was the overexpanding of the empire to where taxes had to be raised to pay for everything, and there wasn't enough people to pay the taxes, and bam, all of a sudden things began to collapse. Now, I want to stand here publicly, and if this goes on Manifest, I'll say it on Manifest as well. that America, if we elect a socialist as a leader, and let me tell you something, it will happen one day. You might as well mark it down, whether it's the next election or the one following, there will be a socialist in power. You can kiss the United States goodbye, because we will have followed at that point the final death nail that the Roman Empire experienced, and it will come to us in like manner. What followed the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, the Italy and Rome, Italy, and all of that area, the Western Empire, that's where the headquarters was. What followed it was something called the Dark Ages, ignorance and poverty and distrust. And so what we will start with in this teaching is starting with something that we call Pax Romana, which is Roman peace. Everybody say Roman peace. It began, as I said earlier, about 27 BC with a man by the name of Caesar Augustus, who, by the way, was nicknamed by the Romans Prince of Peace. And it lasted for about 207 years till 180 AD. This is when Rome was ruled by military control. And in this time frame, you will discover that Rome had the most powerful military in the entire world. You will learn that Roman law was the law of the land. Rebellions in nations were stopped by the Roman military. For example, when the Jewish rebels tried to get rid of the Roman soldiers, the Roman occupation, Romans would bring in the legions and they would crush towns and crush Masada and crush Gamala and everywhere they could find and kill Jews to stop the rebellions. What began to happen, however, was the military became so large and so overburdened, but with the necessity of paying the soldiers and paying for the lands and paying for the bridges and paying for the roads in the empire, that the debts began to increase in the government. And when the debts increased, the only way they knew to raise money was by raising taxes. Now, it's interesting, and I want to show a parallel here, how that Rome, which was the capital of the Roman Empire, had great prosperity. If you were a senator, seriously, if you were a senator and of the senatorial class, if you had a big job in the government, you got great benefits and you got paid. But the states that were a part of the Roman Empire, they were the ones that were suffering, especially the middle class. Let me show you a parallel. Just as Rome was the headquarters of the Roman Empire, Washington, D.C. is the center of the nation for the 50 states of the United States. Are you aware that the highest paying jobs and the highest paying benefits are federal government jobs? Some people I know in D.C. make $35, $55, $60 an hour for the job that they do. And see, it seems like that as Rome had the prosperity centered in the headquarters, D.C. has the prosperity. This is why everybody wants to be reelected as a senator and will lie about everybody else just to get in power. Oh, don't get me sidetracked here. Let's stay on the subject. Okay, we sure will. Historians say this, that the Romans created desolation with their armies, all in the name of peace. They called this desolation unity, but the unity actually meant this: follow what we teach or else you're going to suffer for it. Now, what is Pax Americana? It's American peace. Now, I want to say there is a great positive side to the United States and the great military armed forces that have served us for years. World War I, for example, if it had not been for the United States troops in Europe during World War I, the world would have been a completely different place. World War I, 1917, produced communism, socialism in Russia. And we know the end of that story and what has happened over many years as a result of that. World War II had the United States and our troops and soldiers and our 4 levels of armed forces, had they not intervened, when Adolf Hitler was marching with his Reich, Third Reich, across Europe, then there would not only would have 6 million Jews that did perish have perished, there would have been millions of others that would have perished had we not intervened. There would have been a whole different Europe right now. If Hitler had been allowed to live, Nazism would have controlled Europe and the world would be different. Even in the time of Saddam Hussein, even in the time of the first Gulf War and the second continuation of the Gulf War under George W. Bush, If Saddam would have got a hold of the oil states of Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, the world would have been an entirely different place. Let me just say it to you this way. If it were not for the American soldiers who have fought in wars for 100 years, there would not be a place for immigrants to ever come to that would be a nation of real freedom and prosperity. It would not exist. It absolutely would not exist had it not been for the United States. But let me say this to you. America is, as you know, the center of all peace negotiations. There is no peace negotiation that happens, whether it's India, whether it's in Romania, Bulgaria, Eastern, Western Europe, or especially the Middle East, without the United States' opinion and their involvement with it. We broker all peace, even as the Roman Empire did. Pax Romana, Roman peace. Pax Americana, American peace. We find out that there were 3 stages of wars that were leveled in the Roman Empire. And the final stage, which is interesting, listen to this, was war for the interest of the empire. It was no longer a battle of liberty and freedom. It was a battle over what is the best in the interest of the empire. There have been people that have accused our leaders of going to war in the Middle East because of oil, and only because the oil companies would be affected. So this is what you would call war in the interest of the empire. So let me just mention something to you. In AD 112 AD, Emperor Hadrian, built a wall along the Rhine River in Britain because of the invasion of Germanic tribes that were coming in. Nonetheless, the wall did no good because the tribes continued to come in, and eventually, listen to this now, this is in history. You want to know what the Dark Ages were actually called? The Dark Ages, according to some historians, we call them the Dark Ages, but the Dark Ages was mass migration of tribes into Roman land that eventually caused Western Rome to fall. I'm in history right now, folks. And a wall was built to prevent the Germanic tribes, 10 of them altogether, they were pagans and heathens, from coming into the land and taking over the land, and yet the wall did no good. Now here's what I'm going to say. America's democracy that we have known is now moving toward American socialism. And folks, listen to me. Go to Venezuela, go to Cuba. Do you want me to list other nations? Socialism does not work. Eventually, you are going to run out of everybody's money that you are using to get everybody their free stuff to keep you in power because they voted for you because you would promise them everything would be free. I have a quote that I put together. This is not a quote from someone else. This is a quote from myself. And here's what I'd like to say. Quote, "We have politicians in courts who are attempting to release our citizens from what they consider to be the fetters of outdated Judeo-Christian moral principles and rules." We've come to a point where the Bible is considered now an outdated book. That the rules of the Bible of marriage between a man and a woman, that's old school, not for us today. That the relationship of men with men and women with women, that's outdated. Don't quote me anything from the Bible. And so now we've come to that place. So what I'd like to do is begin to do a study right now and begin to delve into the parallels of the ancient Roman Empire and what we talk about in the United States of America. The first thing I will look at is Rome, Italy, and comparing it to Washington, D.C. The U.S. Capitol and many of the buildings, whether it's the Treasury Department, whether it's most of your federal buildings that have been built, if they have been built for the past 100 to 150 to 200 years, these buildings, if you've ever noticed, are in the form of the same architecture of the Greek Roman architecture. Look at the columns, how they were cut and how they were formed. Look at the capitals, how they were carved with beautiful designs. America's federal buildings are in the same shape. Now, did you know this? Did you know that Rome had a Senate that sat on Capitolina or Capitol Hill? We in America have a Senate. And where do they sit? They sit in a place called Capitol Hill. Even in the ancient temples of Rome, if you ever study them, we have buildings here in the United States that are built very similar to the very temples that were built in the ancient Greek and Roman Empire. Now, here's something interesting, and maybe you've never thought about this. Why is it on the back of a dollar bill, for example? If you've ever looked at the back of a dollar bill, why is it on the back of a dollar bill that 3 words are not in English? E pluribus unum, out of many one. Annuit copitis, God has favored our undertaking. And you can see this one also on the back of a dollar bill. Novus ordo seclorum, a new order of the ages. What language are all of those words and phrases I have just given you in? Answer, Latin. Do you know that the Romans spoke Latin? That the language of the Roman Empire was Latin? Did you know that these particular words are in the Latin language? Why would our founders put Latin on the back of our money with these phrases on the back? Simply because it is a fact we were patterning our government after the ancient Roman Empire. Now look at the American coins. In the Roman Empire, and I'm a coin collector. Most of you know, if you go out there at that table, you understand I'm a crazy coin. That's my hobby. I don't fish. I don't go. Oh, I was going to sing my old little Pentecostal song. I don't smoke, drink, or chew. Don't mess around with the boys that do. I'm born again. So I don't. I was just being funny because I'm just trying to tell you that I don't have any hobbies except this. But I know a lot about Roman coinage. Roman coinage, they had 3 levels. They had gold coins, they had silver coins, and they had a whole lot of bronze coins, which were minted for the common people. Now, what you had here was certain type of coinage for the wealthy, certain type of coinage for the common people. I have on the table out there what is believed to be the widow's mite. It is a widow's mite. It's the 2 copper pennies that the woman gave in the Bible, and those were for the common people that were minted in that day. In America, what kind of coinage had we had? In the 1800s, it was gold coins. In the 1900s, it was silver coins, and also in the late 1800s as well. And then we had copper coins. And you know what the Romans finally did? They finally had a shortage of the metals, and they started making things out of zinc and coating them in silver. Do you know that the United States, that a penny is worth 1 cent, but because when we made it in copper, it was worth $3.25, and they couldn't afford to make the penny out of copper, and that's why they went to cheap zinc. So if you have copper pennies, that's a pretty good thing because you're not going to see them anymore. They're going to be made out of zinc, and they're going to have a coating over top of them. Hey, in the Roman Empire, guess what they did? They put the emperor's profiles on their coins. I have a whole collection of every Roman emperor and their face on the coin. Guess what we did in the United States? Who's on the penny? Abraham Lincoln. Who's on the nickel? Thomas Jefferson. Am I right? Help me. Y'all don't even know your coinage. We're in bad trouble here. They don't even know what's on a nickel. Who's on a dime? We're going to have a history. Can you believe it? 3 people said Roosevelt. Who's on a quarter? Oh, so y'all spend quarters, you just don't spend the rest of the change. That's really funny. I thought everybody just rattled that off. Okay, 50-cent piece. It depends on what year you have. Kennedy is on a $50. He's the most common $50 that we've got. We put the profiles of our presidents on our coins in the latter part of our phase as an empire, and the Romans in the latter phase of their empire, in the Roman Republic, put the emperor's face on all the coins. I have them from the year, let's say 100 to 325, almost to the year 400, where Emperor Constantine was one of the men whose picture you have on those coins in the latter part. Now, let's talk about something else parallel in America. You want to talk about something that's really kind of strange and really kind of weird? That has to do with gods and goddesses that are placed on our coins. The eagle was an emblem of Rome. It was put on all the military standards of Rome. And the eagle was also on the Roman coinage. I have old bronze coins, and almost all of them have the Roman eagle on the back of it. Just like in the United States, the eagle was placed on many of our early coins. We also have Lady Liberty. Now, this is an interesting study because I don't know if you realize that Lady Liberty, which is the Statue of Liberty that is there on Ellis Island in New York, is actually the goddess Libertas. Libertas was a female goddess worshipped by the Greeks and the Romans, and practically every coin that the United States had. The Morgan, how many have seen a Morgan dollar? Silver dollar. Raise your hands if you're, okay. Do you know who that is? That was a woman that posed for that face with the word liberty. It is the goddess Libertas seated with the words liberty on a crown. Do you know that the silver American eagle that has that woman standing there on that beautiful, do you know who she is? She is the goddess Libertas. Almost every coin in America that has a female, except the Susan B. Anthony and the more modern coins, but all of our older coins that have a female on it, the one with the busted hair, the one with the beautiful hair, and the one that has the image of the woman from the side view and the front view, and Lady Liberty sitting. We could go back to the 1700s, 1800s, and 1900s, and we can tell you that this woman, Lady Liberty or Libertas, Libertas is Latin for freedom, the woman of freedom, is just about on every single coin that the United States has minted. Now, the point I want to make is this. When we look at the parallels, I'm just going minor on this right now. When we look at the parallels of the ancient Roman Empire and how it's fitting in the government of the United States with Rome and D.C. having the great prosperity and the states having to pay all the taxes to keep that stuff running, and when we start understanding the patterns and seeing how that pattern exists in buildings and in our government, and then we start understanding the coinage, that the very thing that happened to Rome with their coinage has happened in the United States. And remember, all of this starts happening in the third phase of the empire. This is important. It's important to hear this because I want to show you a couple other things. Roman America, ready? The citizens of Rome celebrated murder. You could go into a Colosseum and watch families fight. They actually made Christian families take swords and made them kill each other. They fed Christians to the beast. They had them crucified on the Appian Road to where the whole city would light up with Christians being on crosses. America, when I saw a group in New York of people who passed laws, and thankfully, not everybody was clapping and cheering. Some did not agree with it, thankfully. When I saw them high-fiving each other and smiling, that you could pull a baby out and determine if you want to kill it or not after it's born, I can understand a sinner being a sinner because that's what he does. He's going to sin. Sin and sinners don't bother me. You know why? That's what they're supposed to do. They're not redeemed yet. For a sinner to come and say, well, I believe it's all right to abort a baby because there ain't nothing there. That's one thing because he's a heathen, he don't know anything. But when a Christian votes a politician in that still believes in it. You don't even know when a soul and spirit comes into a baby. I can prove to you it comes in at conception. Not when they cut the umbilical cord. If you want to hear the latest word on the last days, I'm now offering you prophetic messages by 5 different speakers from our recent International Prophetic Summit. My first message was Pax Americana, America's Roman Disease. I want you to hear the stunning parallels as America enters its third phase, similar to the ancient Roman Empire, and how the mass immigration that came into Rome caused the fall of the empire in the same way that it could bring America to its knees economically and socially. Also, I'm going to expose this new socialist agenda. In my message, The Rapture, God's Reward for the Overcomers, I want to explain the history of the rapture teaching using Greek word studies and answer the critics who don't believe this will ever occur. I will give you numerous overlooked words and verses that prove the great catching away is for the faithful and for the overcomers, and is God's reward to separate His covenant people from the wrath to come. My third message was the most requested, who will be left behind at Christ's return. I'm going to go to Luke 17 and also in Matthew and show you that the Greek word taken refers to those taken at the rapture. I will answer these questions. Will carnal Christians be left behind? What happens to the fetus inside of a Christian woman at the moment of the rapture? And I delve into a very controversial question: what will happen to the pets of Christians at the coming of the Lord? The fourth message is an expose on Satan's hidden conspiracy to sabotage America. I want you to hear this and how if we don't turn and repent, tsunami judgments are coming to the coastal cities of America. I want you to hear Jonathan Cahn's prophetic update I want you to hear Mark Bilt's messages on the prophetic profile of Solomon, how artificial intelligence will impact you. Bill Cloud spoke on the war on the hill, living stones, God's witness of the last days and the mystery of lawlessness. And Joel Richardson topped it off with prophetic developments on Mount Sinai in Arabia and Don't Be a Nimrod. Now, these messages from our International Prophetic Summit are now available. If you would like them on DVD, which includes the message and the pictures, or you can order them on CD, which is the message only. The CDs are for a donation of $70 or more. The DVDs are for $110 or more donation. And the CD offer number is 19PS CD, and the DVD offer number is 19PS DVD. Order online right now at perrystone.org, or you can call toll-free 1-888-21-BREAD. That's 1-888-212-7323. Or write me at Perry Stone, P.O. Box 3595, Cleveland, Tennessee, 37320, and enclose the offer number and the amount. I want to warn you in advance, these messages are for truth lovers and meat eaters only, and they are the unedited versions. Looking forward to hearing from you. You only saw an excerpt of this message I preached, Pax Americana and the Roman situation, how we are parallel to the third phase of the Roman Empire. I want you to hear the rest of it. The real meat, the comparison of the coins, the comparison of the buildings in Washington, the comparison of the Latin language, all these things tie in. And I want you to hear you're going to get the unedited version. Hopefully you'll get the DVDs because they show the pictures of the speakers and myself, what we used. Thank you so much for your prayers and support in that area. That helps keep Manifest on the air. Now, look at this real quickly. I'm coming to Knoxville, Tennessee, Redemption Church, Pastor Ed King, on Friday through Sunday night, June the 7th through the 9th. Then we're coming up to Alaska. Go to the website at perrystone.org and see those dates. I want to remind you of Summer Warrior Fest. Thousands are already registered, July the 12th through the 14th. Young people that's been with me, you know how to do that. You know how to register for that. No fee to attend, but we want you there this summer. Then the Mountain American Prophetic Awakening in Sandy, Utah at the convention center there. And you have to register. There's no fee to attend, but you have to register because we have to know who's coming to that particular event. And so that's July the 19th to the 21st. So go to our website at perrystone.org to get all the places that we're going to be coming to in the future. We may be coming into your area. We also want to tell you that God is moving on Thursday nights at our live prayer. Most of you are aware of the fact, or you've heard me talk about, that we live stream East Coast times from 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, a live prayer meeting. Just last night, and I'm taping this, in advance, of course, but last night we saw people in the building who had been ministered to, that God delivered from spirits. He delivered them from addictions. That God's power came in and touched people. And you can watch anywhere in the world if you have a computer to do so. And we want to pray with you, pray over your request, and minister to you. Now, I want my producer to show you what we're getting ready to build as a World Prayer Network set. He'll show you a couple of pictures of some ideas. And we really believe that revival can come through the lens of a camera while people are praying all around the world. So if you're hungry for revival, for renewal, for change, for transformation, for your sons and daughters that are away from God to come back into the kingdom of God, prayer is the key, and we want to focus on that. Now, I'll be back next week with a brand new excerpt from the Prophetic Summit. See you then.
Perry Stone invites you to join him for his 2019 Israel Tour. The dates are November 25th through December 4th with an optional visit to Petra in the country of Jordan. Call 1-888-321-3629 or visit perrystone.org for more information and how to register. Seating is limited, so call today.